they're both on the same level. They're both very, very good players. Neither is world class, and neither is a donkey.
Mm-hmm.
And the perception of our fans, once they've made their mind up, for whatever reason it is, they won't be budged on a player. Similarly with Lacazette, they've made their mind up that he's not good enough, and no matter what he does, or what Arteta tells you he's doing, because Arteta's been very supportive of him, even through the bad times.
Yes.
He's been very supportive of his work rate and his endeavour and his link-up, all through the bad times. And that's telling, because when the manager believes in a player, when the team's playing badly, that tells you that that player is doing something and he's not a bad player. But our fans' perception of him isn't good, and it hasn't been good. And Jacques is the worst example, or the best example, whichever way you want to look at it, as to how the perception of the fans can just be wrong. You know, it just can.
Well, George, as you know, I have a view that popular opinion is a contrarian indicator. If you see all the masses jumping behind a player, you should be very wary. And I apply this in other areas of my life, especially when it comes to my little retirement portfolio and how I invest it. But I popular opinion is a contrarian value. That is an aside. But to make your point, George, if we go by these Twitter, the Twitterati, because it's not the ordinary fans, the Twitterati. If you go by all these YouTubers and these big bloggers, Xhaka should have been sold the months ago. He shouldn't have been even here over the summer, and he should have been put on the market during this transfer window. Of course, I made a point in my last match report, and I'm on the Newcastle game. That there's one thing Arteta has done, which is correct, is that he's made him the anchor of his central midfield. And I know there are very good friends of both you and I who persist. You know, that person will remain nameless, and he perhaps will be listening to us, but he knows who. You and I know who this is. Nothing good to say about him. It's amazing, George.
Well, it's not amazing. It's predictable because they've made their mind up on him.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, he's a very, very good player. He isn't world class.
Of course,
he would have to have a bit more pace,
yes,
a bit more mobility to be world class. But in a lot of the things he does, he is world class. And for people to say, even last night, there was people on my timeline saying, when I praised him, when I said, you know, right at the beginning, he gave Lacazette a through ball that Lacazette really should have scored.
Right. I remember that.
It was beautiful. We were in 1-up in the first couple of minutes, and it was a wonderful ball. It was a wonderful ball to Pepe for the goal.
Right.
And I said straight away, that's two. He's put two balls on the plate in the first few minutes. I was getting replies on my timeline saying he's not good enough. You know, he's usually crap, but he's not usually crap. This is how he usually plays. If the team isn't functioning around him, he gets the blame. He seems to get the blame, just like Ozil did before him. They seem to blame the most important players for the team playing badly. It's a weird occupational hazard of being on Twitter that's what these people do. They look at your best players and say, well, it's his fault. He should be dragging the team single-handedly to success. Real good top players do. When the reality is, no, they don't. You put a top player in a badly functioning team, and he can't make all that much difference. It can only make a marginal difference. So anyway, the point is, Zach is a top-class player, and so is Thomas Partey. And those two together look like we could go forward comfortably. But a lot of fans think, there's some people think this new lad, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name in case I get it wrong.
Odegaard, or whatever his name is.
Irregard.
Whatever they call him, disregard.
Regardless, or whatever his name is. People think that he's going to replace, even Martin Keown was in the paper saying that Xhaka will be worried about his position because this lad's coming in. It's madness.
George,
There you go. That's the madness we have to put up with day in, day out.
George, on the other side of the coin, I see on my timeline every people then suddenly falling in love with Pepe again. And I'm not going to take away from the goal he scored yesterday. But that's the other extreme. And I think it's all, I'm not going to think. What is your opinion of that? Because what do you think opinion of his game yesterday?
Okay, well, looking at Pepe first, when I heard that Tierney was out and we were playing Cedric, well, I assumed we would play Cedric.
As left back.
At left back, a right-footed player. I immediately thought, we need a left-footed player on the left-hand side in front of him. It's all right having an inverted striker if you have a left-footed left back, but you can't have both of them playing off the right foot. And when I saw that Pepe was starting and with Saka, I hoped that Arteta would do what he did and play Pepe on the left and Saka on the right, which he did. It would have been easy for him to switch over because Saka, when he's played on the left, has been very good. So he could have played on the left. But we've seen Pepe play on the right and he sort of struggled. So I did hope that he would do what he did, and he did it. And I think it helped. And Pepe had a decent game. He didn't last the full 90, but
almost.
He was doing some good stuff. He can do, he's obviously a talented player. And you have to play to his strengths. Well, yesterday we played to his strengths. So he didn't look yesterday the total flop that he sometimes has been perceived as. He still didn't look a £73 million player.
And that which is what you and I have said. Which is what you
better. Sorry. But he didn't look a £73 million player even yesterday. But that's not his fault. Price tag is not his fault. And you have to say he did well. He played well, and I think that in the absence of Aubameyang, he was the right choice, and he probably is the right choice going forward to play in that position.
Yeah, but George, I was just contrasting, or just making the point that there's some sort of overreaction because George, as you say, when Tierney comes back, it's going to be very difficult for Arteta to play him on the left. You see, because he's going to use Tierney as overlapping a left back, as you know,
yes.
Right? So
absolutely,
the partisans are going to say, "Oh, Arteta doesn't know what he's doing." You and I have our problems with Arteta. I have problems with him as ethically and morally, and and I'm not sure. When we have both said we're not sure if he can set up a team. We know that he can coach his individual players, be that as it may. But this is a very easy football. Well, my opinion, I've never coached, but this appears to be a very easy football decision. If you play Tierney, you can't have Pepe on the same side because they're going to both get in each other's way. So what a point I'm making, why the overreaction is is not justifiable. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, well, I agree that, but you can't stop people overreacting. There's been fans of Pepe have been waiting for this moment for 12 months.
Yes, indeed.
Give them the moment.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Accept it. He played well, but look at why he played well.
Yes.
And look at, like you say, look at the circumstances. If Tierney was playing, you would be wanting someone who would cut inside more than Pepe did, and that would be a right footer. But I'm not as convinced that he can't play that position when Tierney comes back, because I think his best position is when he comes inside, when he is nearer the middle of the park, and he does have an ability to beat players, to bamboozle them, and to pass the ball, and he can score. Well, to score, you have to be sort of in the box.
Right.
So, because he's left-footed, you know, doesn't mean that he can't come inside.
Yes.
He can still come inside. He doesn't have to hold the byline and cross the ball. So, I still think with Tierney in the team, he could play on the left-hand side. But, as you say, he would have to be making movements inside more. But I don't think he's incapable of doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I take your point, but I still think that even with Tierney there, he would be better on the left-hand side than he is on the right-hand side, because he became so predictable on the right-hand side.
He's coming inside with his left foot.
Always coming in, always trying to get to the corner of the box to either play the ball in with his left foot or just try and curl it in to the far post with his left foot. Very predictable. But, yeah, I mean, but you have to look on the positive. Surely, we've paid £73 million for him. We've got to be pleased that he had a good game.
George, let's draw a line under. I just draw a line under that. I didn't want this to become a Pepe discussion. There's enough of that on Twitter. George, so our next fixture is against Manchester United on Saturday, which I won't be seeing because I'll be traveling. That's just a word to the wise. Then after that is Wolves away, Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, City at home, and Leicester away. That takes us all the way through February. And I don't know when Europa League begins, but there's somewhere soon the Europa League resumes as well. Now, George, that is a heavy boatload of fixtures. There's no brightening there. If you know what I mean. There's no West Brom in there. There's no Newcastle in that group. These are some very tough teams. That will be telling in terms of where, if we have really turned the corner and in the straightaway, George. Your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it will. It will be. It's a tough run of fixtures. And when you think who we have beaten and the style in which we've beaten them, and we played all right last night, you look back to the Chelsea game, which started this, and then you have to reflect that, okay, we beat Chelsea, but so has everybody else, to the extent that their managers got the sack. Exactly. That's how well they were playing.
Yes.
So, and then we beat West Brom, Newcastle, not performed particularly well against any of them.
We really trashed Newcastle.
We'll have to play considerably better to get 14 points out of 16 in the next 5 games. Do we think we've made that much of an improvement? Personally, I don't. I think we'll suffer some losses. I mean, I can't imagine we're going to beat Manchester City when we play them. But with a chance